Superman is one of the most iconic characters in the DC universe, and he's one of the first banner characters that new players are going to have access to when starting the game. I'm working with a group of experienced players who've been playing the game for quite a while. We've had Superman rated as S tier since the soft launch of this game back in December of 2024. From time to time, we get players who are interested in learning why Superman is so good. We also have a lot of players who are trying to tell us that he's not any good. And so I think in order to dispel some of those concerns and maybe explain why we think Superman is so good, I thought it would be good to do a little bit of a character breakdown. We'll take a look at his kit. I can talk you through some of that. We can look at his force. We'll look at a couple of legacy pieces, and then maybe we'll do a meta brawl battle and maybe a combat cycle battle so that I can show you through his kit working in action. Well, let's start off with his kit. Superman's ultimate ability is called Under a Yellow Sun. Superman deals physical damage, and this ability deals a massive amount of physical damage. It's based on a percentage of his attack. We'll take a look at his stats in a moment. But the important part of this is that every time he does his ultimate, or at least the first 3 times that he does his ultimate, he's going to gain a permanent stack of solar energy. Solar energy increases attack by 15%. So if you're able to get your ultimate off 3 times in a battle, you're going to stack attack by up to 45%, and that solar energy is going to stay on Superman for the rest of the battle. So from that point forward, he's just going to do a massive amount of damage, like way more than he did the first time. So very important mechanic here. The second skill is Heat Vision. And Heat Vision, he's going to be doing physical damage again based on a percentage of his attack. The nice thing here is that using Multiversal Force, you're going to be able to unlock an additional reduction of target defense for a few seconds after this ability happens. So he's going to be cycling this Heat Vision ability every so often. And if you can get this to cycle right before his ultimate goes off, you're going to reduce the target's defense and you're going to be able to do a massive amount of damage to them. So they kind of build on each other. Next ability is Freeze Breath. And I really like this ability because I love abilities that are able to incapacitate targets. I think it's sort of, in a lot of ways, it can be a win condition, especially if you have a team that can do a lot of incapacitates. But with this ability, he's again dealing physical damage equal to a percentage of attack, and he's also going to be able to freeze the enemy for 3 seconds. And that's actually a quite significant amount of time that he's able to freeze them. So you can imagine these things are building on each other. So we now have 3 abilities. Superman's going to be able to do Heat Vision, where he's reducing target defense. He can hit them with Freeze Breath, which is going to incapacitate them. And then his ultimate can go off, and he's going to do a massive amount of damage to them while they're not able to do anything to him, which just compounds how quickly Superman is able to get enemies down. And the last thing here, it's sort of a survivability thing for Superman as of right now, because there aren't any other Superman characters in the game, but eventually Superman is going to be able to gain additional attack percentage for all the other Superman family members that are present. One significant thing about this skill, even though there aren't any other Superman family allies to use, is with Multiversal Force, you're going to be able to increase Superman's attack by a certain percentage, and that is a very significant amount. So there's his kit. Let's take a look at his force. We've already been talking about it a little bit, but with Heat Vision, you can reduce the target's defense for a certain amount of time. With Man of Steel, you're going to be able to increase Superman's attack. And then with Freeze Breath, if you invest force into this ability, it's going to reduce the cooldown of Freeze Breath. So he's going to be able to cycle that ability more. And the more times you can incapacitate, the better. There are a couple of things here in his force that I think are fairly significant, ones that you should definitely be focusing first. And so those are going to be let's save crit damage for a second. It's going to be the attack percent boost. So you really want to be focusing this one in the bottom right. And then physical penetration up here in the top right. That one's very important to focus on, and we'll look at those stats. And then just keep in mind that crit damage one, and we'll talk about it in just a second. You can also see crit resistance, which again is going to help with his survivability. So let's look at Superman's stats. You can see attack is a very important portion of his kit. If you take a look here, Superman has a decent amount of crit damage. The problem is his crit rate is 0%. So I don't know if the devs are ever going to fix that. Clearly, this is a big limitation for Superman's kit, is that there are these abilities to give him crit damage, and then his Superman's cape, so his sort of marquee legacy piece, gives crit damage, and we'll take a look at it as well, but he doesn't have crit rate. Hopefully they're going to be able to fix that at some point in the future, but again, I still don't think it takes away from the fact that he's clearly an S tier character. Well, let's take a look at Superman's gear. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the gear itself because the gear that you're able to equip to these characters is based on some of their tags. So basically the Warriors and Guardians equip the same type of gear. But I think the thing that is important to talk about is some of the best legacy pieces that are available for Superman. So if you can guess, you really want to have a legacy piece that has a lot of attack on it. And Superman's cape is a very difficult item to obtain. It requires 200 magic eyes. You're only going to get one of these legacy pieces probably every 2 to 3 months. If you are a free-to-play or light spender, whales can get them much quicker, probably every 3 or 4 weeks. Maybe you could probably get one of these. But here you can see Superman's. You can see that crit damage on there that, in my opinion, really isn't doing anything. He is getting a decent amount of attack here with 12%, and this is with 0 stars invested on it. You're going to need, I believe, the first level up from here, you need another 40 magic eyes to be able to get that first star, which is going to help with adding some extra stats. But the nice thing is there are a couple of skills associated with this legacy piece. The first one is Kryptonian protection. So as soon as you equip it with Superman, he's going to, in his physical penetration is going to increase, and then before casting any skill, he gains a stack of attack up, and that stacks up to 6 times. So that's a massive additional amount of attack up that Superman's going to get. And then at the start of the battle, his defense and men are increased by 1% per second, up to a maximum increase of 30%. And while we're talking about these stats, people ask a lot of questions about what these attributes do, and it's not super intuitive, but if you click or press on each one of these, you'll be able to see what they do. So like a lot of people ask about men reduces spiritual damage taken, which is fairly helpful. Defense reduces physical damage taken. So men is basically the same thing as defense. And then physical penetration, since we looked at that, it increases physical damage dealt. I guess we can talk about honorable mentions for legacy pieces. So let's go into our collection and we'll go to legacy. The first honorable mention, and this is one that I used until I was able to get the Superman cape, is Prometheum claws. And that's because they are going to give Superman a little bit of tankiness and survivability with the HP. There's also going to be some crit resistance, and then that 12% attack, which is fairly helpful. The other great thing about this particular legacy piece is the Deadly Digit skill, which increases attack by 8%, and that's just a static increase of attack. And then when his health drops below 50%, he would gain a shield of 10% of max HP. That only is able to be triggered once, but in a lot of cases you'll find it's quite helpful to give Superman just that little bit of extra time to do some damage if he's about to die. And then more of the, I suppose, free-to-play item that you could use for Superman as well is going to be the Razor Rib Umbrella, which doesn't have any additional skills or anything, but it does give you a pretty decent amount of attack. This one is not showing max. So let me go over to the character that has it equipped. Okay, so you can see fully maxed out Razor Rib Umbrella, 5 red stars, is going to give you 29% attack. So it's sort of there's sort of a good, better, best here where you're getting a decent amount of attack for Superman. And that's it for his legacy pieces. Let's jump into a battle really quick. This is probably a good one to use, so we'll guarantee a win. I'll just make a couple of modifications here. Actually, that will probably do it. Maybe we'll swap out Ivy for Raven to get a little bit of this Justice League Dark synergy. Okay, It is kind of difficult to see what's going on here, but Superman was able to cycle his ultimate. So maybe that was a bad example because they just really wrecked everything. But you can see here, Superman did a majority of the work, 458,000 damage. The next thing we can do to showcase Superman is we can go into combat cycle. You might be able to get a better look at him from here. Okay, so you just did his heat vision. You won't be able to see him do the freeze, but there he just did his ultimate, dealing significant amount of damage there. And he's cycling his ultimate again. So cycling really, really fast through his ultimates, gaining a lot of energy. I believe this will be his third. So he now has the 3 sets of solar energy, and he's going to be doing significantly more damage on future ultimates from here. 360k on that one. And you can see he is going to come out of the battle now. But that gives you a pretty good idea. Let's take a look at the damage meters. You can see that he did significant amount here, more than Sinestro, not quite as much as Constantine, just because Constantine's doing a lot of AoE damage in that fight. But for the most part, Superman is one of my biggest damage dealers in these fights. Well, that's going to do it for this quick character profile of Superman. Again, I'd love to hear feedback from you if you feel like you've had a poor experience with your Superman, or you feel like he's not doing the type of damage that you think he should be, or if you think that there are characters that are better than Superman. There's definitely a few of the spiritual damage dealers who are proving that they're able to do a lot more damage depending on the fight. But I think there's no better character in this game for physical damage than Superman. I hope you enjoyed this video. I do plan on doing similar deep dives for all of the Bleed Limited characters as they come. So be on the lookout for, I believe, unless plans change, the Joker is going to be coming right after Superman. We'll see what the Bleed calendar looks like, but I will be doing additional videos like this in the future. If you enjoy this content and want to see more of it, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next video.